all the wrestlers saw it, and then bam, it blew up. But honestly, I look back at that, and it was the best thing that ever happened. I think I was outgrowing that food trailer, and someone from above obviously blew that bitch up.
Hey, it's Chris, and in wrestling, there's a lot of talk about belts. Although for some people, that's not a belt, that's a title, because a belt holds up your pants. Well, with that logic, this is a belt. Actually, this is the Anson belt. And because of this belt, I've now thrown out every other belt that I own. A big thank you to Anson Belt for sponsoring this video, but you're like, come on, man, it's a belt. How great could it be? Okay, so I'm gonna show it to you up close, and I want you to count how many belt holes there are. Ready? Here we go. Exactly, there's 0 belt holes. So how does it hold up your pants, right? Listen to this. So what you're hearing is micro adjustability. And if we flip the belt over, you'll see there's 30 different size options, all a 1/4 inch apart. So the Anson belt will fit your waist absolutely perfectly every single time without guessing. All right, quick story time. I used to have a belt that I loved so much, but it never fit me quite right. So I took my drill and I drilled a hole into it so it would fit me better. But then I ended up just having a whack looking belt. And the last thing you want is a whack looking belt. So here's how it works. They ship you one very long strap. You wrap it around yourself so you get the perfect fit. Then you cut the excess material, attach a buckle, and you're ready to go. Speaking of which, the buckles and the straps are completely separate, so everything's completely interchangeable. So click the link down in the description to get the box set of 3 straps with 2 buckles, or 2 buckles with 3 straps. It's your choice, but it's 6 belt options that come in for less than $100. Or just buy 1 belt if you want. There's no code, there's no discount, it's just a badass deal on a badass belt. ODB in the house.
Oh boy, what's up?
Here we go. I don't even know what to expect from this. This is going to be awesome.
I love it.
You look like you could jump in the ring right now and have a match.
Yeah, I'm all jacked up. Yeah.
You are jacked up. And like, I think that this is the interesting thing about you is I don't know where ODB the wrestler ends and where ODB the woman begins.
Oh. Definitely all woman. Oh yeah.
So where are you these days?
I'm in Ormond Beach, Florida. I'm here for the winter, expanding my food truck and hanging out, and I'm not missing the snow back home in Minnesota because that's where I usually am.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot colder. Look, I'm originally from Canada. I'm not missing the snow right now either.
Oh, Canada. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, we're neighbors.
Yeah, pretty much. We have similar accents, you know, being from that part of the world.
Oh yeah.
You're driving the food truck to Dynamite. Is that every week?
That yeah, I've been going every other week. They do live shows. So I've been going every other Wednesday. That's been great. I started out just tailgating for the fans because they've had about up to 1,000 fans per show.
Great.
And then I got backstage, and I haven't been backstage in a long time, so it's kind of weird. And then I just showed my food truck up backstage, and some of the wrestlers came out, and the crew guys, and all the camera guys at AEW are my TNA boys. So it was cool to see everyone.
So if I were to walk up to your food truck, it's called the Meat and Greet food truck. What am I gonna see on the menu?
Well, you're gonna see some pork nachos. You're gonna see the pork mania, the meat in a cup, and the meat in a cup is my favorite. Literally a cup. It's like a red Solo cup. It comes in three different sizes. Pick your cup size, B, C, or double D. And then it starts out homemade baked beans, my pulled pork, coleslaw, and a pickle all in a cup.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Is that your most popular item?
That is. Everyone, it's funny to see people when they come up. They're like, Meat in a Cup, what's that? And they start reading it, and then they're like, BC double D. Oh, I get it. Yeah.
And everybody wants double D, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, some people are like, oh, I don't know if I can handle the double D. And then you get all that weirdness out there, you know?
Have you always loved cooking?
Yeah, the one thing about cooking is it brings people together. And
Yeah.
I've always been an entertainer in and outside the ring. Like, I love my lifestyle. Even back home growing up, my parents would have parties in the garages. You know, they would have little bonfires, drink their beer. And then us kids would just ride our bikes around and wait for someone's parents to yell at us to get home. And I just loved being around people. And like, I started out cooking in crock pots, you know, and to make it. And then it's just been a thing for me. I love cooking. I mean, I'm not like a big fancy chef or nothing, but I'm a pretty damn good smoker. I like to smoke the meat.
Growing up in that part of the world, there's a lot of comfort food. Like I feel like chili is a
Yes.
really big thing in the Midwest.
Chili and hot dishes. So like tater tot hot dish is amazing. Meatloaf has been awesome. Like anything you can put in a crock pot is amazing.
Right. Anything you can put in a crock. Man, I love and it's also like a relatively easy way to cook for people who aren't
Oh,
chefs like me.
well, that's the thing. Like you can literally in the morning put whatever you want in there. If you want to put chicken, put some vegetables in there, chili, and let it cook all day, and then it'll be ready for you when you get home for dinner.
So talk to me about growing up in Minnesota. Were you always a massive wrestling fan?
Oh my God, I gotta send you some pictures. Yes, I love because Minnesota is where a lot of the guys got started. Like, you know, with the AWA, with the Ganyas, you know, you had Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan get their start, the Road Warriors, and oh my God, just going to those shows. I hated Hulk Hogan growing up, and I loved like Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior, and we'd have our signs and stuff, and it was just like I just loved it. And we would our parents would take us to me and my brother and our friends to shows, and then I found out that a lot of the guys it's called the gym in Minneapolis, and they all hung out there. And I think the Road Warriors actually owned the gym.
Hmm.
And so me and my brother would stand outside waiting for them. And I remember Larry Zabisco told me to buzz off. He's like, "Get out of here, kid." I was like, "What a dick." And then, but now he's cool. But the one guy that was really cool to me was Barry Darso, Smash from Demolition. I actually have a kick-ass picture of me and him. We're both in our Zubas, and I have a Venice Beach muscle shirt. I think I have a mullet too.
So did you decide early on, this is it? I love wrestling. I want to try to be a wrestler when I grow up.
Yeah, like, but they were so larger than life back in the day. They were so colorful, and like, you know, seeing the honky tonk man come out, Macho Man in his robe. I'm like, oh my God, who are these men? And then, like, you know, I went off to college and stuff, came back home, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to get all jacked up and go wrestle.
So you were not larger than life. You're larger than life now. You weren't larger than life when you were growing up.
I was a little quiet girl growing up.
I don't believe that.
I was definitely not ODB.
Who was Jess when you were growing up?
I was actually, don't laugh now, I was actually a ballerina for about 12 years growing up. I did like tap, jazz, and ballet. And I was also a jock too. I played softball throughout my softball and hockey. But wrestling, like I got to, dancing, I got to dance at the Super Bowl halftime show back in like when it was in Minnesota, like 90 maybe. I'm not sure when it was.
Wow.
And, you know, got to perform in the Nutcracker. Like I was, yeah, I was always a performer, but didn't know it was going to lead me to this.
But there's got to be some sort of similarities between dancing and wrestling. I mean, they always call wrestling the violent ballet, but there must be some sort of similarities.
Yeah, definitely. You know, you got to be on your toes and you got to have good balance and kind of have a good brain to remember stuff. So yeah, definitely helped me out in my wrestling.
Do you
sure.
still do any sort of dancing?
Oh God, no. No. I mean, I can go like this a little bit, but no, I did not. No, I'm not a dancer.
So where did the idea for the ODB that we now know and we now love, where did that come from?
Well, I actually got my first taste of wrestling. Do you remember back in WWF days? It was the very first Tough Enough back in 2000.
Of course. Yeah. The one that Maven won.
Yeah, maybe in India.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, easy way to get in wrestling. So I sent in my tape, and my brother was like, you need a cool name. You need a name that like eventually people will chant, and you need like, Jesse's not going to really be powerful. And he's like, One Dirty Bitch, ODB. And I didn't even think about the Wu-Tang Clan, Old Dirty Bastard.
Right.
So then I did it, and I made a nice little cool video, and they sent me to New York, and I made it to the top 20, but I didn't make it on the show, obviously. But I'm so glad I didn't, because who knows what I would have been up to right now if I would have been a reality star. But then I actually kept in contact with Al Snow. He actually remembered me from all those people. He's like, and then I kept seeing him on the indie scene, because when I got back home, I called up Eddie Sharkey, who trained the Road Warriors, Sean Davari, Austin Aries, Ken Anderson, and I just started training, and bam, yeah.
Bam, yeah.
Yeah.
So you had no wrestling experience when you auditioned for Tough Enough?
Oh God, no, I didn't have any of my tattoos. My hair was like out to here. I think I had a perm at the time. I didn't have my double D's, and I was like, "Hi, I'm one dirty bitch."
Do you think if you had wrestling experience, it would have worked in your favor on Tough Enough? Or were they looking for people that were green, that could just be, great storytellers on a reality show?
Well, I guess, yeah, because MTV was what they were on, and WWF actually liked me. They're like, oh yeah, we see something in her. But MTV said, no, she doesn't have a story. She wasn't, they actually were asking me questions if I was a lesbian. They're like, "Do you like women?" I'm like, "Nope, I like men." They're like, "You sure?" I'm like, "Yep, I love men."
You probably still get that a lot. I think that if someone, and I mean this in the best possible way, but I think that if someone immediately looks at you, they go, yeah, she might be into girls.
Yeah, I do get that. Someone actually just said to me, like, they're like, "So what are you into?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Men, women?" I'm like, "I love the cack."
Not that it matters. Like, it doesn't matter one way or another. But
exactly. It doesn't matter as long as we got some love going on.
But I think that for whatever reason, the look that you have might make people think that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Especially if I'm at like biker events and stuff. People see me all like, and my deeper voice and the bandana and all this stuff. But I'm just a little girl,
A little girl. Yeah.
You
probably have a lot of women that are into you.
Oh boy. Well, actually, speaking of that, the funny going into something like that. So since I, live in my Airstream full time, and I travel a lot to different campgrounds, and so I have this thing, the flamingos. It's kind of like a camping thing.
Yes.
And so I have all my flamingos out, and I was in Louisiana, I believe. And this couple walked by, and they're like, "Hey, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah." They're like, "What's up with all the flamingos?" I'm like, "Oh, I just love them. It's just an Airstream thing, fun little camping decoration." They're like, "You know what it means, right?" And I was like, "No." They're like, "Well, it means you're a swinger."
Is that right?
Yeah. So I was like, oh boy. So I don't know if that couple was looking to swing or what.
Do you still have the flamingos out?
I do.
So where we're doing this interview right now, this is your home/Airstream. Is this also attached? Yes. Is this the food truck as well?
Nope. This is the
we see a flamingo there. This is great.
Yeah, that's my fancy one. Actually, yeah, because a lot of people get confused. They're like, okay, so you live in a trailer. Is it your food truck too? So my food truck is actually a food truck. So that's totally separate. And then my Airstream, I actually pull it I have a regular truck that pulls the Airstream. But when I move and stuff and go back home or wherever I go, I have very good friends. So I have someone that will pull my Airstream, and then I drive the food truck.
So where's the food truck as we sit here right now?
It is in the back of the campground, so they have
Okay.
a parking spot for me. Yep.
You couldn't just leave it at TIAA Bank Field where
No.
the Jaguars are?
Yeah, what's up, Tony Khan? What the hell?
I mean, and they've got plenty of parking there.
Oh God, it's huge. I could actually park it in the stadium.
You definitely could park it in the stadium. So what is life like when you live in an Airstream?
Honestly, it's because I love hanging out with older people, just like the older generation, their stories, their life that they've been through, and just like, so I'm in this campground and it's all snowbirds. I'm the youngest person here. They start their happy hour probably around 11 o'clock in the morning, and they're passed out by 5. But it's I love it though. Like everyone's so cool, and anyone will just stop over, hang out, driving on the golf carts. They'll have bands on the weekends here. We all go by the pool, hang out, and they have bingo on Monday nights. So yeah, it's just I love I just love listening to these guys' stories and stuff. It's just fun.
I've always felt like you're kind of like an old soul. Like maybe you were born, 20 years too late or something like that.
I agree. And I actually look back at the wrestling days. I'm like, oh, I was in the wrong era. Damn it.
What era would have been great for your style of wrestling?
Oh, the Attitude Era. Totally. Dang it. Or even in the 80s too. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth on those, but like just being on the road with like freaking Macho Man, the Nasty Boys, Steiners, like, oh my God, I would have been, yeah.
But with that said, the Attitude Era was amazing, but women weren't really given the opportunities in the Attitude Era that you were given.
That is true.
You were such a trailblazer with the knockouts. Like women's wrestling
Thank you.
is the way that it is now because of what you and Gail Kim and Mickey James and everybody else in TNA did 10, 15 years ago.
Thank you. I can't believe it was like freaking 10 years ago. Holy crap. Damn. Wow. Yeah. It's like you look back because I always look back, especially on like our social media stuff, like memories start popping up and everything. And it's just so cool to like see some matches pop up and you're like, oh my God. And we really were like, I was so blessed where I ended up. Like TNA was awesome to me. Doors always open for me too to come back, and it was just awesome. Like Awesome Kong, Gail Kim, the beautiful people. I mean, it was just amazing. Like I love that locker room, and I'll talk to the girls too. We pretty much talk every day, most of us.
Oh wow! Do you guys have like a group chat that you talk in?
Yeah, we do that Voxer.
Oh yes, so, I had Lisa Marie Victoria here recently,
and she's the one I talked to her. She says hi.
Oh, she's so sweet. She was sending so many Voxes when she was here.
She's awesome. I talk to her pretty much every day. And then Mickey James.
She's so sweet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's get this out into the open here and get this cleared up. You are not retired. You haven't wrestled in a while, but you are not retired.
Gosh, no. I actually, it's been about a year since I actually wrestled. I think I only wrestled a couple times last year. Never retired, just kind of obviously expanded my brand into the food truck, and then the food truck took off, and now I'm like, I kind of want to get out there. I just don't want a food truck a lot. I want a food truck, but I want to be more special. So I want a food truck. I want to get in the ring. I want to, do this and that. And actually, so I am actually getting back in the ring.
Okay.
So yes, Impact obviously called me. And that's a cool thing about stuff. Like I've never burnt a bridge in wrestling. Like, yeah, we all have our, bad moments and stuff, whatever you want to tell everyone to go F themselves. But it's just Impact was awesome. Like TNA was always my home. And then, they buzzed me, and every time I'm like, oh gosh, oh boy, here we go. But, they're like, hey, would you want to come back, and see what happens and possibly bring the food truck. So that's my ultimate goal, is actually to drive my ODB's Meat and Greet into a stadium and kick some ass.
So when are we going to be seeing you on Impact?
Soon. I'm actually leaving in a few days.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So they're taping in Nashville right now. Is that right?
Yep. In Nashville. Yeah.
So are you driving the Airstream to Nashville or the food truck to
No,
Nashville or both?
I'll be flying. I'll be flying.
Okay. And then coming back to Florida.
And then coming back, and then possibility in the future, hopefully next month, bring the food truck to Nashville. So.
And you've got a whole new era of people that you can wrestle in Impact now. This is going to be great.
I know. And then I see Jazz is there. So no one's ever seen me and Jazz go at it on TV. And then Jordan Grace is another good one. Taya, like they all just, I love how the knockouts are still going as the knockouts. You know what I mean? They're all so different. They're all keeping it good. And I just love all those girls. They're a lot younger than me, but so that'll be fun. I'll be
all of those matches are great. Also, Deonna Purrazzo, I think that you and her would have a great match.
Yeah, I've never worked with her before. Yes.
And this is funny. It's only been what, 4 years since we last saw you in Impact?
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Yeah, I went back last year just for a little bit for a couple of shows. And then it's been probably like, I think 2014 was like my last official contract with them. So it's been a little bit.
Oh, wow. And we recently saw you in NWA as well.
Yep, that was a good time. I had to wrestle Thunder Rosa. She's amazing. We had a lot of fun together. It was just a brawl. I was sore for a long time.
We'd still be seeing you, I think, in NWA if the world was a little bit more normal.
I know, right? Dang it.
But, hopefully we're heading back that way again.
Yes. It's, we'll see what happens here.
So what's going to, Impact has a relationship with AEW right now. So if you're back in Impact, maybe we see you in AEW. I mean, you've done some work there, but maybe we see you doing like some sort of crossover.
That actually is something because I'm not afraid to pitch anything. What are they going to say? No, Yeah. Because that was actually one thing I said. I'm like, Jacksonville's an hour away from me. I've been having my food truck there. Why not drive the bitch right in? And go after some of those chicks or, I think that would be,
Well, we saw you in the Battle Royale at All Out.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would turn into something more. I mean, it was such a nice surprise seeing you there, but why was that the only appearance in AEW?
I know. I'm kind of like, I think the same thing too, because I went there. The reaction was like, holy, because I had my food truck at the hotel and everything all weekend. And then I showed up and they're like, holy shit, ODB, and then nothing. I'm like, all right, well, cool. But they never really brought in a lot of girls, that were named. And he never brought in any of the TNA girls or, ex-WWE chicks and stuff. But I think you need to spice that women's division up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, Awesome Kong's there, and Allie, I guess, spent some time in Impact, but yeah, it totally makes sense to have you in that as part of that division.
Yeah, because I can still go. I actually just had to buy a new wrestling outfit because I sold my last one.
Oh, wow.
But it'll be good.
So we're going to see you in a new outfit when you return in Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, it'll be the same kind of gimmick I wore with my boobs hanging out, my ass showing. So, yeah.
How long into your career did you decide that grabbing your boobs would be your taunt?
I know, right? I remember the first time I was at TNA was 2007 when I officially signed with them. And they kept saying, they're like, why do you keep grabbing your boobs? I was actually grabbing them just to make sure they were still there and not like hanging out. So I kept like going like, and they're like, keep doing it. They're like, it works. And then the BAM thing came from OVW days. And then I was like, oh, BAM. And then a lot of the boys were like, keep grabbing your boobs. And then I remember though, Spike TV was like, all right, can you not grab your boobs so much? And yeah, then I kind of slowed down for like a month. And then I said, fuck it, I'll keep grabbing my boobs.
So is Spike TV saying don't grab your boobs, period? Or, limit your boob grabbing to one or to a match?
They said limit my boob grabbing, and they're like, don't grab onto it. Like, they're like, maybe give it a nice 3 count. So I was just like, whatever.
So this is like a network executive telling you how to grab your boobs?
Yeah. I had a lot of nice little talks from TNA and Spike TV about my stuff.
What else did they think was controversial?
Oh, they just said, kind of watch your mouth a little bit. Like I remember, like we do like little storylines and stuff, and then I'd always, make fun of the chicks that had like the weaves in their hair and, call them whore and stuff. And they're like, can you not call these women whores? So yeah, it all worked out.
I bet you'd get away with that on Access TV.
I know. Well, now like with no crowd, now it's like, cause I talk a lot when I'm in the ring. Like I'm like, hey, come on, you bitch. That's all you got. I'm like, oh my God, I can imagine what I'm going to be saying.
We're going to be hearing it all. That's what's going to be happening.
You are. You're probably going to hear me huffing and puffing and saying, my match will probably be one long beep.
When did you decide, you know what, I'm going to buy a food truck. I'm going to make this thing happen?
Oh boy. Well, it started out, I was on a cooking show with Joey Fatone from NSYNC. And I did that, oh gosh, probably a good 8 years ago. And we filmed it at my Airstream in Minnesota. And it was just before like my barbecue sauce came out. And we did, and it got a lot of publicity. And everyone's like, oh, that chick with the wrestler, the Airstream, And then I got a phone call from a place called Pepper Palace. They make, they're in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and they make hot sauce and barbecue sauce. And they contacted me about, they're like, hey, we'd love to work with you about a barbecue sauce. I was like, hell yeah. So we did that. And then I started traveling by myself in the Airstream, going to like barbecue festivals, Sturgis Bike Rally, Daytona Bike Rally, Texas, and drove around selling barbecue sauce in my little 10 by 10 tent, and being a vendor. And that was, it was a lot of work, and it was fun though. I mean, I experienced a lot of shit during those days, and it was fun, but it wasn't making me money. I was literally, like buying sauce just to go to the next festival and then selling it and, paying the bills and all that. And then a complete stranger just came up to me and they're like, you should get a food truck and like feature your sauces. I was like, oh yeah. And I literally dived right in. I got a food trailer to start, and started it actually at Jimmy Hart's bar in Daytona Beach, right outside the parking lot. And well, my first year and a half, 2 years was a shit show. It was like I had no idea what I was doing. I was all over the place. But
who works in your food truck now? Is it just you?
It is just me. I'll have back in Minnesota, I have my nephew Fletch that helps me out, and some of my good friends, but it's me. It's me booking it, cooking, promoting it. Like it's all me. Yeah.
The wrestling audience is very niche, right? Like if you love wrestling, you love wrestling. If you're not into wrestling, it's just a thing that's over here that you don't watch. There must be a giant population of people that don't know you as a wrestler. They just know you as a food truck owner. Yeah, it is kind of cool because like when they look at my food truck, like, I have a cartoon face of me and I going like this, and then I have like the wrestling belt outside, and I have all this stuff, and people look at it, they're like, wow, this is a cool setup, good marketing and stuff. And then they're like, who are you? And I'm like, oh, ODB, I've been a pro wrestler. Like, oh my God, that's so cool. So then, you get a whole new fan base. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, they're just like, oh, keep it up. This is cool. What's the first question you get from the non-wrestling fans? Is it, do you know The Undertaker? Yes. Oh, I had drinks with Mr. Perfect. He was my good buddy, was he? Or the best part, I love this, where I get like the older women, they're like, oh yeah, we used to hang out with all the wrestlers. I'm like, I bet you did. I know what you were called. I was like, oh yeah. So yeah, it is funny though to hear all those stories when people are like, hey, I would drink with this guy and that guy, and I'm like, cool. So how did you start to balance food truck owner, operator, entrepreneur, and also being a wrestler? I just made it work because I was like, I knew I wasn't done with wrestling, but I was like, oh, I'm going to use my wrestling name to expand it. And then I wanted to still wrestle, but then I got so focused on the food truck, and I was like, oh, I got to get this thing taken off. And then once I kind of balanced it out, I was like, well, now I'm like,
But now I would love to get back in the ring, you know, not full time, but, you know, still kind of food truck at big events, hop on a plane, go wrestle, come back. And so, yeah, it's just, I love like just doing, because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't want just one income coming in, you know what I mean? You want this, you want that. And like, that's my goal this year, is just to have, you know, just be everywhere.
Yeah. You said you wanted to expand this. You didn't just want to have a food truck. What's next?
Oh boy. Well, I'm actually just launching, because 2020 actually was a very good year for me. My business, my food truck business took off amazing. I worked on myself. I hired a life coach. And I just really worked on myself. And I'm actually launching a paid group for, and you get me. So it's kind of cool. So it's like I'm going to be motivating, inspiring people. You're going to have me as a coach, and I'm going to be doing like weekly phone calls, live calls, and always available for people to. So I really want to motivate, inspire people. I think that's the main thing about 2021. I love helping others, and I love seeing my friends and people win. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's so awesome when you see all of us being successful. I'm like, oh my God, I love it when like wrestlers, like, you know, get other stuff going on. Like, it just makes me happy. It's cool to see people succeed.
Is personal growth something that's always been interesting to you?
Yeah, and I've learned that in wrestling. Like, I learned a lot of stuff in wrestling, but the one thing is, like, you know, there's life after wrestling, and you got to be ready for it, you know. And I've seen so many people lose their lives over wrestling, and it sucks, you know. And I think people just need a balance and stuff. And it's just like, I've always been focused on myself, but really like invested, you know, some money into it, and just getting my brain. Like, I'm actually doing, I don't know if you ever heard of 75 Hard. It's a mental challenge by Andy Frisella.
I know
Look
Andrew
him up
Frisella, yeah.
He's amazing. So I'm on day, I'm on day 71 of this 75 Hard challenge. And it actually came at a perfect timing to go back to Impact. I'm literally wrestling on my 75th day. So
Oh, wow.
So 75 days, I had to work out twice a day. One has to be outside, no alcohol. So I haven't drank in 71 days. That's probably losing my reputation right there.
We won't tell anyone. Don't worry.
Yeah. And like just working out, reading books every day. What else was there? Taking a progress picture every day, which I'm looking back at my pictures. I was like, holy shit. It's great. I mean, not only do you lose weight, but your mind is just more clear, less foggy. But I can't wait to have a drink on my 76th day.
You know, we live in a world now where everybody calls himself a life coach, or everybody is trying to give out free advice on the internet. When you start to go down that path and go, you know, I want someone to really help guide me and help me make me a better version of me, where did you begin?
I actually started following this guy, Sean Whalen. He wrote a book on how to make shit happen. And I read his book, and it was awesome. It kind of changed me a little bit. And then I actually met him in Vegas about a year ago. And he has a group called Lions Not Sheep. And then he had a live thing in, I think in last June he did. So I drove to Utah, from Minnesota to Utah. It was like 18 hours. I was like, I'll go on a road trip. You know, everything's shut down, whatever.
Yeah.
So I took a cool little road trip to Utah, and there was 200 people there. And he talked. He's a huge motivational speaker. And then he had a lot of his buddies that are very successful talk too. And it was pretty cool experience. I remember a lot of the girls back in the day at TNA, like Gail Kim and Christy Hemme, they loved going to these retreats. I was like, what are you guys talking about? I'm like, you're paying money to go have someone talk to you, blah, blah. Now I'm like, yeah, now I do that stuff.
Well, I think the biggest thing is it's focusing on what you're doing right now, because it's so easy to just kind of live in this moment and not think about what tomorrow or next week or next month is going to bring. And I think that that's a big part of this, is being specific on the goals that you're reaching after.
Yes. Especially during this time, like last year has been a shit show. And so many people, like, drank more, stayed at home. It gave you an excuse to be lazy, basically. Everyone's watching Netflix. What's the new thing on Netflix? And drinking more and hanging out more. It's just like I did, and gaining weight. I'm like, I am not going down that route.
Well, I've been saying that COVID is an introvert's dream because there's so many people that would get invited to parties or out to, events, and they'd be like, oh, I don't really want to go, but I also don't want to say no. So sure, I'll show up. And now it's like, COVID, can't go, don't want to go.
I know. I'm kind of glad some stuff was shut down. So I'm like, now I can focus on myself and not worry about missing,
What was the biggest thing what was the biggest thing that you felt that you needed to work on yourself?
Just my goal, like focusing, like staying focused, because I can be everywhere. You know what I mean? Especially running my business. Like I really need to focus on the business part. Like, I can do like promote this, cook that and park somewhere, sell my food. But I'm like, the business part, I need to, start focusing more on. And, then it's nice too, because then I got to hire some people to, help me with my business and stuff. So it's good to reach out to people. That's the one thing I learned too. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. Like me and you, we have so many freaking connections, like in everything, and one of the main guys I reached out to was Robert Irvine.
Gail Kim's husband.
Yeah. And they've always been huge supporters of me. And I love those guys. And Robert, like I literally just talked to him like a week ago, and then he hooked me up with this corporate chef, and we've been, they've been helping me out a lot, just like, the numbers and all that, the stuff that, I need help with. And just like, it's just cool to have that, and they appreciate that. I think it's cool. Like if someone reached out to me and wanted some advice about something, like I would think that'd be awesome.
I think the biggest thing that I learned as an entrepreneur, because I own a fishing brand, I own an outdoor brand called Tungsten. I think the biggest thing I learned was delegation, because when you're starting out, you think that you need to do everything yourself.
Yes.
And I heard this great quote that really stuck with me. It's early on, you will trade your time in order to make more money. And then as you kind of get going, you're so okay with trading a little bit of your money to get some more of your time back.
Yes, I love that. Love that. That is true, because you just worry so much about stuff, and you're like, time is money, and your time, you're worth a lot. So,
but when you're starting out, you're like, well, I could probably build this website. I could probably run this social media account. I could probably do the accounting. And then as you get going, you go, well, actually, I should probably hire someone who's an expert at this, and they can take care of that.
Yeah, and it's nice too. It's like, got some hats lifted off of you.
So do you think that, you had such a great year in 2020. Do you think that COVID, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, as it starts to go away in 2021, is that going to be better for your business?
I think so. I really think, especially like being a small business, I think a lot of people in 2020 have been supporting small businesses a lot more. And they're going to realize, wow, small businesses, if you made it through this shit show, be ready for an awesome year and be ready for more support from people. I think, I think especially too, like I'm a food truck that does big events. I do like concerts. I did the Kid Rock concert back in Minnesota a couple years ago at a casino. And like doing those were like my money makers. Like I miss those. And I think once everything starts opening up again, I think things are going to get ridiculous, like awesome.
What has been your best event for the food truck? What's been the event where you ran out of food because there were so many people?
Oh, it's been actually, I have like top threes. I have,
bring it.
Pretty much I did a lot of casino shows back in Minnesota, because casinos are pretty big up there. And I remember running out, it was 4th of July a couple years ago, and I had a line. There was like 5 food trucks, I believe. I had a line nonstop. And I think I had a couple helpers that time. And I'm like, I was down to my last pork butt, and I still had a huge line. I'm like, shit. I think I cooked about 18 pork butts. That's a lot of meat, plus chicken and stuff. I was down to it. I'm trying to like grab what I can to make a good portion. And I had to make the announcement, and some jackass, he's like, "Oh, you obviously didn't come prepared." I was like, "What did you just say?" So I jumped out of my truck. I said, "Excuse me?" And we went off, and then everyone started clapping, and they're like, "Good for you for selling out."
Yeah.
And then the people that ran the show were like, "Oh my God, we apologize, that someone did that to him." Like, I don't care. It is what it is. So that, but when you run out, you kind of get pissed because I'm like, "Oh my God, I could have made so much more." But I like selling out. And then actually at the Starcade, Starcast, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Starcade. I wish.
They won in Chicago?
Yep. Yeah. So I did 2 of those with my old trailer. I did the first one and I did the second one. And both times, yeah, all day. I mean, I was working from literally 6 in the morning on my food truck till about 2 a.m. Like, I was nonstop with it. But I did awesome there. Those are some of my biggest sales right there.
Well, you had the best
Yeah.
location. I mean, you were right at the exit/entrance. So as you're walking in, there's the food truck. As you're walking out, there's the food truck.
You couldn't, I mean, that couldn't happen. Like, Conrad that put it all together, he hooked me up with that. And then the Hyatt Hotel was awesome because not many hotels would do that. They'd be like, "Oh, you're taking away our sales," but they loved it. They're like, "You can use our kitchen. We got you." So it was, that was a perfect place to food truck. I
I
definitely
want
want
to
to go back.
acknowledge you for continuing on with this, even though you had the giant setback of the fire on your food truck. And I think a lot of people might have gone, that sucks. It's not for me, and kind of went on to
Wow.
something else.
Yeah, because I remember that. Oh God, I remember that night. I was sound asleep, and I was like my phone's going off. I'm like, "What the hell?" And they're like, "Your food truck's on fire." I'm like, "Huh?" And so I went there and literally saw it just going up in flames. I was like, "You're just kind of numb." I'm just like, shit." And then it's kind of like, I mean, I knew I wasn't gonna give up, but it did suck at the. I mean, your whole business gone. There goes your moneymaker. Wasn't making any money. I was like, "Awesome, this is gonna be so fun." And then dealing with insurance and all that fun crap. But then it ended up working out. Thank God for the wrestling world. I mean, Impact called me back, paid me very good. DDP reached out. DDP actually reached out to me in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
Like the next day, he's like, "Hey, ODB, it's DDP." I'm like, "Damn, what's up?" Because I just did Starcast the following week. So it was like perfect. I mean, don't say perfect timing, but it was like all the wrestlers saw it and then bam, it blew up. But honestly, I look back at that and it was the best thing that ever happened. I think I was outgrowing that food trailer. And someone from above obviously blew that bitch up, and it got me my dream food truck, got me more publicity from it. It was a lot of work. There was a lot of times where I'm like, ugh, like, I cried, and it's just like, shit, now what? But I wasn't giving up. And then I just, during that winter time, dealing with, all right, I might have enough money to buy a new truck. What am I going to do? And then I, just bartended. Cause I've always been a bartender. So I bartended at my, one of my best friend's bar back home in Minnesota, and then got back into the wrestling world and got that money and ended up working out.
Where was your food truck or food trailer at the time when it was on fire?
It was actually at my buddy's bar, literally like 5 minutes from me.
In
I
Minnesota?
parked it in his parking lot. Yeah, in Minnesota. And he was actually out of town. And then he heard about it. He's like, "Holy shit. I'm just glad no one got hurt." So I guess before that, a bartender was literally out there smoking a cigarette by it.
Wow.
And I'm like, "Oh my God, if that thing would have blew up," and like, oh, I'm so thankful no one got hurt. Like,
so what ended up causing the fire?
They never investigated it, which, so like the next day, the guys were there that night, and the guy was looking around. He's like, "We have no idea." He's like, "Do you have any propane?" I'm like, "No propane on the truck. It was all electric." And he's like, "Didn't come from your smokers." And maybe it was an electrical fire, which I'm thinking it was, because it was an old trailer built into a food trailer. And then they never came and like looked at it. But I was like, "Oh."
But we're thinking this was an accident. This wasn't arson or vandalism.
No, there was actually a camera on it. So me and my buddy actually sat down and watched it, and we were like looking at it. We don't see anyone going around it. And all of a sudden you just see like smoke coming out of the vent there, the hood. And then all of a sudden it looked like someone just turned the switch on and bam, it just, all the windows blew up. I was like, holy shit.
Wow.
Oh,
so very quickly after that, an Indiegogo was set up to raise money so you could buy another food truck. You didn't reach the goal of 50,000. Does the campaign still get paid out to you?
Yep, it still got paid out. And then what was kind of cool, so everyone that donated, I actually shipped out, a barbecue sauce to them, t-shirts and all that stuff. So that was great. Like the wrestling world, it's like you don't realize how much you're loved. I was like, damn. I was like, this is pretty cool.
But I think it's so important to key in on what you said, that's the best thing to ever happen to you. You know how crazy that sounds, that a fire for your business got caught on fire. And that's the best thing to happen to you.
I know, you look back, I'm such a believer in that stuff. Like everything happens for a reason. Don't wait for it to happen. But if things, getting to that level where you want to be, it's not going to be an easy ride. The journey is going to have some bumps in the roads, but this is how you handle them. So
what's the best advice that you have for someone who wants to start a food truck of their own?
Oh boy.
Don't.
No. It's just like everyone who wants to get into wrestling, don't do it. Well, because I get that question a lot. Like some people just think because they're a good chef, oh, I want a food truck, I'm gonna do this. You know what? Do it because you love it. Like do it. Like I look at other food trucks and I think it's awesome. Like I'm doing a big food truck festival on Saturday in Sanford, Florida. And it's going to be 30 of us and we're all going to be so different. I love the uniqueness. Like people get like when they start a food truck, they're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Just do it. Like don't think too hard. I'm not a chef. I just have, who I am. And, people, I think if you're willing to put in the work and work your ass off, do it because it's worth it. But you've got it's not a hobby. Definitely not a freaking hobby.
I think there's two types of people in the world. There's people like me who like to eat and do not like to cook. Cooking for me is a means to an end. Then there's people like you who like to cook and also enjoy eating it.
I do, yeah. Like when I'm on my food truck, I'm like, oh, I better try everything before I sell it, And but then it's funny though. Like when I come home, I'm like, I'm starving. I don't want to cook, but I still love cooking. But sometimes when it's just me, I'm like, I don't want to cook right now, and I don't really want to eat my food.
I lived in Florida for 5 years, and when I would see the people working in food trucks, I don't know how you guys do it. It's so hot already in Florida, and then you're going to put yourself inside a food truck. How do you pull it off?
I'm thankful I don't have any deep fryers or flat tops, so all I have is smokers on my truck. So it doesn't get as hot as people working with grease. So that is kind of an up, but yeah, I definitely won't be here during the summer months. I'll be,
Having a smoker in there, you must smell delicious all the time. Like right now, you smell like delicious smoked meat, don't you?
I literally smell like a pork butt all the time. I think I should, bottle that shit up.
It can be ODB.
Yeah. I can actually smell my smoker right now. I'm like, oh gosh. And it's not even plugged in. I automatically smell it.
Yeah, it's probably all over your sheets and your entire Airstream probably smells like that.
Oh yeah, it's probably hot bringing a guy back. Hey.
I said that probably is hot. Like, oh, you cooking something in here? No, that's just me.
You cooking me dinner? Yeah.
So if that's your advice to someone who wants to have a food truck, what's your advice to someone who wants to break into the wrestling industry?
Oh boy. Enjoy it. Have fun. I always say if you're not having fun, don't do it. But God, getting into the wrestling business, I think is a lot easier now. There's so many places to work, everyone just wants to get, to WWE, the big show, but there's so many other places you can work. Like I've never been to WWE. I'm glad, I'm happy with where I've been. And it's just so cool. There's so many different promotions to go and do it. And it's so, I think as long as, I love the wrestling world. I'm thankful that I got to do what I did. And like, it's a fun, and you meet so many cool people, all my good friends are all wrestlers, and you have a good connection. So when you find, I'd say, it's try it out, but it's not guaranteed. I can tell you that. No one.
I know there's going to be a lot of people that are watching this interview that are certainly familiar with who you are, but maybe they've never seen an ODB match.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not an Impact fan. What's an ODB match that they need to look up right now? What's the go-to ODB match? Oh
boy, my go-to ODB. Oh shit, that's a tough one. I'd say, oh man, that's I don't know if you want to go like way back in the day of like the good old TNA days. Definitely ODB versus Gail Kim and Awesome Kong. I believe it was a pay-per-view. I'm not sure the name. Maybe Bound for Glory, one of those. And then also too, I also got married in the ring. So that's one of my favorite moments, getting married in a steel cage. So look up ODB wedding.
Well, I think a lot of TNA fans, Impact fans will definitely be familiar with the work that you did with Eric Young. And I feel like that took your character like up to another level.
Yeah, it was fun when they put me and EY together. Our chemistry just clicked. We had a blast. Like, we were just cracking each other up. Like, you should see some of our takes. Like, we would do stuff and they're like, did you guys just really say that? We're like, yeah. They're like, we got to do this again. And it was just fun. Like, we actually met in like 2003 backstage in Green Bay, Wisconsin in a WWE event. We were both like extras. And I was actually packed up my truck and moving to Nashville where TNA was. And he's like, well, I'm going to Nashville. He's like, let's follow each other. So we followed each other, got to Nashville. I ended up staying there for a couple of years. And I think he's from Canada, but I think he stayed in Nashville for a little bit. And then, that's where Tracy Brooks was and stuff. And then we just, stayed friends ever since. And then TNA's like, we want to put you two together. We're like, all right, cool.
When do you think when do you think you really started to hit your stride as the ODB character that we, became familiar with in TNA?
Oh boy. It really hit, like, I think once, it was probably, I don't know, maybe my second year at TNA. They kind of let me, the one thing I loved about me is like, I got to do other stuff besides just being part of the knockout division. Like, if I wasn't going after the title, I was still doing something. Like, they gave me my own talk show. I think it was like Talking Trash with ODB. So I got to be part of that. And that was my idea that I pitched. And cause I always liked, Piper's Pit. So I was like, I want to do a thing, like a cool little talk show. And I think that's what kind of got my character a little bit. Cause I kind of, I got to be more, I just let it out. Sometimes I watch my shit and I was like, what the hell was I talking about? I just went out. It was like, whatever. But I think like they let me do me, like, having a own talk show, win a date with ODB, being part of the guys division, with EY, and just like doing just random other stuff was cool. Like, I didn't always have to, be the champion and stuff. So it was cool.
I just feel like who you are the rest of the time, who you are outside the ring, is so much nicer and sweeter and different than someone might expect after seeing your character.
When people meet me, they're like, oh, they look at me, they're like, oh, you're a lot smaller in person. They think I'm just like this huge chick or something that's gonna roar,
I think they think you're like Awesome Kong size, and she's big.
I think they do, and I'm like, they're like, wow. They're like, we thought it'd be a lot bigger. I was like, well, thank you, I guess.
You're just like, I'm all boobs. That's it.
I know, right? Oh yeah.
So we're going to be seeing you in Impact probably as this interview is coming out.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Oh yeah.
This is huge.
Yep, it's oh boy. I
Oh
better
boy,
start.
you should put that on a shirt. You've said "oh boy" like 15 times in this interview.
Have I? Oh, it could be a drinking game.
Oh boy.
That's my new pro wrestling T-shirt.
Seriously. Oh boy. Perfect.
Oh boy.
Where can people find you online?
So you can go. I have a website, odbsmeatandgreet.com, and then you can follow me on social media: the Twitter, the Instagram, Facebook, under the ODB BAM. So I have all that listed, and yeah, I'm always on social media. I love sharing I like getting more personal with people, like sharing, my story in life, about relationships and all that fun stuff and traveling. So you're going to get more personal with ODB if you follow me on social media.
And by the way, it's meat and greet, like the meat that you would eat, MEAT.
Yep. MEAT. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I end every interview talking about gratitude, and I have it behind me here. Be great, be grateful. I think that if you can be grateful, you'll live a great life. So I want to ask you, ODB, what are 3 things in your life that you're grateful for right now?
Oh, well, my health, grateful for that. I'm grateful for good people in my life. I surround myself with good people, my friends and family. And I'm grateful for something new that came into my life a few months ago. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I'm sure you'll find out soon.
Okay. Wow. What a teaser there. Okay. Well, whatever it is, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. This was such a great conversation. So good seeing.
This was fun. It was just
you.
nice and it was refreshing. I like it.
We'll do one in person. We'll have some, we'll have some of the food from the meet and greet truck. We'll do this in person.
Oh, I can't wait to have like a fun wrestling convention and reunion with everyone. I think those are going to be now. I can't wait for the first one to come. I think that's going to be so fun for all of us.
If nothing else, this time has made us appreciate that stuff so much more.
Right? Yes, I agree. Because before I was like, ugh, another wrestling convention. Ugh, Now I'm like, oh, can't wait to see everyone and hang out and, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was great.
Well, thanks, Chris. This was awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And stay safe out there. And how is it in LA right now?
Everything's pretty closed.
Damn.
We can hike and go to the beach, but we can't go to restaurants, can't even dine outside at restaurants. My gym is in a parking lot now, but I'm hopeful. They just opened up a mass vaccination site at a few of the stadiums here. So,
oh, really?
So I'm hopeful that we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, because you guys have been pretty much locked down this whole time.
Pretty much. I moved here 6 months ago, and when I moved here, gyms were open for like, a week or two, and restaurants were open, outdoor dining, and now, it's pretty locked down. But I think it's the right move so that we can head in the right direction.
I agree. Just get this shit over with. Yeah.
That's the perfect way to end this.